May God bless your day and the entire week ahead as you join us on this deep dive.
Yes, absolutely. Welcome in, everyone.
Because today, well, we are looking at something pretty wild. Imagine being drafted into, like, an elite military logistics unit.
Okay, setting the stage.
Right, but instead of moving weapons or, standard supplies, your sole mission is to transport a highly lethal, basically radioactive object.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and you have to move it through an unforgiving, pathless desert.
With no protective gear.
Exactly, no gear. You just have to trust the specialists who pack the object, and if you make a single mistake or even, look at it the wrong way, you die.
It is, it's a very profound scenario to step into.
It really is. Today we're looking at how an ancient people managed a divine blessing so powerful and so concentrated that it required a life or death protocol just to survive being around it.
The stakes literally could not be higher.
Yeah.
And to understand it, we're going to be pulling insights from the Holman and NAA study Bibles.
Right.
And we are focusing specifically on Numbers chapter 4.
Which I think we need to completely reframe how we think about the book of Numbers,
Oh, I completely agree.
Because people hear the title Numbers and they immediately brace themselves for, like, a dry, dusty historical ledger.
Right, just full of unpronounceable names and lists.
Exactly. But if you look closely at what the text is actually describing, it is the ultimate masterclass in high-stakes, hazardous supply chain management.
That is a great way to put it.
The Israelites are moving the tabernacle, this massive, mobile, sacred sanctuary, and this chapter is the literal blueprint for transporting the immediate presence of God.
And when we talk about God's presence in this ancient context, we have to really strip away our modern notions.
What do you mean?
Well, today, people often think of the divine presence as this warm, abstract, comforting feeling, right?
Right, something very peaceful.
Yeah, but the text treats the divine presence as a concentrated holiness. It is an intense, physical, and frankly lethal force.
Like a live wire.
Exactly like a live wire. It had to be managed with absolute precision to avoid a total catastrophe in the camp.
So to manage a force like that, you obviously can't just pass around a sign-up sheet and ask for volunteers.
No, absolutely not. They needed a highly specific draft.
Right, and the census instructions given to Moses and Aaron are targeted directly at the three main Levite clans.
The sons of Kohath, Gershon, and Merari.
But they aren't drafting the whole tribe, which is interesting. They specifically mandate that only men between the ages of 30 and 50 are qualified for this work.
Which is a very deliberate window.
Wait, I have to challenge this right out of the gate.
Oh, okay, go for it.
Well, if I am hiring a moving company to transport incredibly heavy structural materials across a desert, I want 22-year-olds.
You want the raw strength.
Yeah, they are at their absolute physical peak and they never get tired. Why 30 to 50? That seems older for heavy labor.
It does seem counterintuitive at first, but it highlights a crucial intersection of physical capability and psychological maturity.
Okay, maturity.
Right. Transporting the tabernacle wasn't just physical labor. The text designates it specifically as service and the carrying of loads for the tent of meeting.
So it was viewed as a sacred duty.
Exactly. It was a highly regulated sacred ministry performed under extreme psychological pressure.
Ah, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, a 20-year-old might have explosive physical strength, but they might also be, impulsive.
They might cut corners when they get exhausted in the midday desert sun.
Or they might want to show off how much they can lift to their friends.
Oh, totally. Just stacking too many things on their shoulders.
Precisely. And in this specific job, cutting a corner or rushing a protocol literally meant death.
Wow.
So the 30 to 50 age bracket represents the prime working age where a man still has robust physical strength, but he has also developed seasoned caution.
He has the discipline.
Right, the discipline and absolute adherence to rules required to handle dangerous materials.
It's the burden of maturity. You need someone who deeply understands the gravity of their actions and, well, won't make a reckless mistake.
That is exactly it.
And that strict requirement makes perfect sense when we look at the most dangerous job of the entire operation.
The Kohathites.
Right, the Kohathites.
Yeah.
They were burdened with the literal core of the faith.
They were responsible for what the text explicitly calls the most holy things.
And we aren't talking about ordinary tent pegs here.
No, definitely not.
The Kohathites had to carry the Ark of the Covenant, the golden altar, the lampstand, and the table of the presence with the continuous bread.
The actual artifacts where the divine presence was most concentrated.
This is where we see that absolute zero tolerance policy regarding divine holiness, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
The Kohathites were Levites, but they were not priests.
That's a huge distinction.
It is. So the legal rule established in this chapter is that Aaron and his priestly sons must go into the sanctuary first.
Before anyone else.
Right. The priests are the only ones authorized to dismantle the sanctuary and wrap these sacred items.
I need to stop you there because the text is shockingly severe on this point.
It really is.
If a Kohathite even looks at the holy items before they are covered, or, if they touch them directly, they die. Point blank.
Immediate death.
So how do they even get into the room to carry the ark out if they can't look at it? Do they wear blindfolds?
No blindfolds. They cannot even approach the vicinity until the priests have completely finished a very complex wrapping process.
Okay, so the priests act as the ultimate specialists.
Exactly. They go in, and for the Ark of the Covenant, they first take down the separating veil.
That's the heavy curtain that shielded the Holy of Holies, right?
Yes, and they drape that veil directly over the Ark.
It's exactly like a hazardous materials team.
Yeah.
The priests are the hazmat specialists in the protective suits.
That is a perfect analogy.
They have to go in and carefully insulate this radioactive core. And only after it is fully contained and shielded can the Kohathites come in.
Right. They slide wooden poles through the rings on the Ark.
Yeah. And carry it on their shoulders without ever actually touching the object itself.
That hazmat analogy captures the exact mechanism of what is happening here. And the insulation layers are just fascinating.
They really are.
The study notes detail that over that inner veil, the priests place a highly durable layer of fine leather.
Okay, I noticed that in the Holman study notes, and I have to admit I was incredibly confused.
The animal skin.
Yes. It identifies this leather as badger skin or potentially dugong or manatee skin.
Yeah, it sounds bizarre.
How on earth is a nomadic tribe wandering through a pathless desert sourcing marine leather from a dugong? Did they have hunting parties out on the Sinai?
It sounds totally out of place until you consider their immediate historical context.
Which was what? Egypt.
Right. The Israelites had just left Egypt. The Red Sea is right there, which is an arm of the Indian Ocean where dugongs are actually found.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and in the ancient Near East, marine leather was a highly prized trade good. It was incredibly durable and naturally waterproof.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
So they were utilizing the most premium, weather-resistant material available in the ancient world to protect the Ark from the harsh sand and wind.
Okay, so it's a very practical, heavy-duty weatherproofing layer. But then on top of that marine leather, they place a third layer, which is a pure blue cloth.
Yes. The pure blue.
Other items like the table of the presence or the altars, they get wrapped in purple or scarlet cloths, but the ark alone gets this distinct pure blue outer covering.
Right. It stands out completely.
But wouldn't placing a bright blue cloth over your most valuable artifact out in a beige and brown desert make it a massive target?
You would think so.
It's basically a flashing neon sign saying, hey, here is our most priceless treasure. Weren't they worried about hostile tribes ambushing them?
That is the profound tension of this text. The blue cloth absolutely was a flashing neon sign.
Right.
But it functioned as a visual theology for the Israelites themselves.
Ah, for the camp, not for outsiders.
Exactly. The NAA study notes emphasize that this intense divine holiness had to be communicated visually to the camp.
To keep them away.
Yes. The fear of God's presence and the absolute necessity of respecting its boundaries was far greater than the fear of any desert ambush.
It's basically an ancient warning label.
Yes, perfectly said. Everyone in the Israelite camp and every Kohathite carrying it would know instantly what was under that specific blue cloth.
They wouldn't have to guess.
Right. It communicates that God is present and traveling in their midst, but his perfection is dangerous to approach carelessly.
You cannot treat the sacred as common.
No. The blue cloth says, do not touch, do not approach without authorization.
It completely shatters the idea that holiness is just about, being morally good.
Oh, completely.
Here, holiness is treated like a live wire. It's a voltage that requires multiple layers of insulation just so the workers can survive carrying it.
It is a very physical reality for them.
But the Kohathites are just one piece of this puzzle, right? They are carrying the sacred heart of the tabernacle on their shoulders.
Yes, the core.
But the rest of the physical body of the tent required a completely different, monumentally difficult type of heavy lifting.
Which brings us to the logistics of the Gershonites and the Merarites.
Right, the other two clans.
Their jobs didn't involve navigating the highly lethal inner furnishings, But from a purely physical and engineering standpoint, their tasks were staggering.
Let's look at the physical breakdown. The Gershonites were essentially the textile division.
Right, the fabric.
They handled the massive curtains, the tent coverings, those heavy badger skins we mentioned, and the screens that formed the outer courtyard.
And then you have the Merarites, who handled the structural hardware.
The heavy stuff.
Very heavy. They were responsible for the massive wooden frames, the crossbars, the heavy pillars, the metal bases, and all the pegs and cords.
Everything that securely anchored the entire complex to the desert floor.
Exactly.
And the study notes point out an incredible detail about how these two groups actually transported their loads.
This is one of my favorite details.
So the Kohathites had to carry the holy items on their shoulders, but the Gershonites and Merarites actually used wagons.
Because the weight was just too much for human shoulders alone.
Right. However, the Gershonites were allocated 2 wagons for all their textiles, while the Merarites required 4 wagons.
And that discrepancy in wagon allocation is a vital piece of evidence for how grounded and realistic this text is.
It's not just arbitrary numbers.
No, not at all. The NAA study notes explain it simply. The structural elements the Merarites carried, like the solid wooden boards and the heavy metal bases, were overwhelmingly heavy and voluminous.
Compared to just folded fabric curtains, it's just pure physics. I mean, you need double the ox power to drag massive wooden frames through sand than you do to move fabric.
Sand adds a ridiculous amount of friction, too.
Oh, absolutely. It makes me picture the Merarites as like the unsung roadies of the ancient world.
The roadies, I love that.
You know, the crew out there sweating, driving heavy trucks, and building this massive, complex concert stage, making sure every single truss is locked into place.
Doing the grueling work behind the scenes.
Meanwhile, the Kohathites are the specialized VIP handlers carefully carrying the lead singer's priceless, fragile acoustic guitar.
The roadie analogy is perfect because the structural crew is just as essential as the handlers, even if their job lacks the same mystique.
Without the stage, there is no show.
Right. And both the Gershonites and the Merarites operated under the strict direction of Ithamar, one of Aaron's priestly sons.
He acted as the overarching project manager.
Yes, for the setup and teardown operation. And to give this some broader historical context, the study notes reference a 2nd millennium BC Hittite document.
Wait, a Hittite document?
Yes.
Why does a pagan Hittite document matter when we are talking about a biblical text detailing Israelite worship?
Because it outlines a remarkably similar organizational structure.
Oh, really?
Yes, it proves this wasn't an isolated alien concept in the ancient Near East.
Okay, that is fascinating.
The Hittite document shows a society where a non-priestly class of workers guarded and transported the deity's items under the strict, direct supervision of a priestly class.
So it was sort of a standard operating procedure for the region.
Exactly.
Huh.
It shows us that this highly stratified division of religious labor, separating the mechanics of transportation from the ritual management of the sacred, was an understood, effective way to organize large-scale operations.
It proves this was a feat of civil engineering and advanced supply chain management, not just, a spiritual exercise.
It was incredibly pragmatic.
They are moving tons of material through a pathless desert. Every single peg, every cord, every wooden frame had to be accounted for.
Nothing could be lost.
Because if the Merarites lose a crossbar, the whole tabernacle compromises its structural integrity.
And when you have an operation requiring marine leather insulation, precise wagon weight distributions, and zero-tolerance death penalties, you can't just guess how many guys you need.
Right, you can't just wing it.
No, you need an exact mathematical inventory of your human resources.
Which is exactly what the final tally in Numbers chapter 4 provides.
Yes, the numbers themselves.
It is so common for you, the listener, to read these biblical lists of numbers and just let your eyes glaze over, assuming it's just ancient filler.
We all do it.
But these numbers are the literal pulse of a living, organized society.
Let's break them down.
Let's look at the breakdown of the qualified men. These are those in that prime 30 to 50 age bracket.
Okay.
The Kohathites draft 2,750 men. The Gershonites draft 2,630 men. And the Merarites draft 3,200 men.
Bringing the total qualified workforce to 8,580 men.
If you look at the logic of those numbers, it aligns perfectly with the physics we just discussed.
It really is.
The Merarites have the largest workforce by far at 3,200 men because they are the ones carrying the heaviest structural pillars and bases.
They needed more men and more wagons because their physical burden was simply the most demanding.
It is a totally calculated workforce allocation.
But there is a staggering detail hidden in these numbers that the study notes bring into sharp focus.
Oh, what's that?
If you look back at Chapter 3, the total number of all Levite males over the age of 1 month was 22,000.
Wait, so out of a total population of 22,000 males, only 8,580 are actually drafted into the specific heavy lifting service.
Yes.
That is nearly a two-thirds reduction. The vast majority of the Levite population wasn't actually doing this work.
It highlights the extreme exclusivity and the rigorous qualifications of the job.
You couldn't just walk up and help.
No. You either met the criteria of age, physical ability, and clan affiliation, or you didn't.
That is intense.
2/3 of the population did not qualify, whether they were too young to handle the psychological pressure, too old to bear the physical weight, or maybe just physically unable to meet the demands.
It really makes you appreciate the phrase the text uses, each to his work and to his burden.
Yes, a beautiful phrase.
It wasn't about prestige, it was about function, obedience, and the sheer value of every single assigned role.
Every role was vital.
The Kohathites, carrying the pure blue-wrapped ark, couldn't do their job if the Merarites didn't sweat in the sun to set up the wooden framework first.
And vice versa.
Exactly. The Merarites' exhausting heavy lifting meant absolutely nothing if the Kohathites didn't survive bringing the sacred artifacts to fill that space.
The community functioned like a complex biological organism.
Interdependent.
Completely interdependent. The tabernacle, representing God's presence, relied entirely on this intricate web of human cooperation.
Wow.
Every specific number and every specific name mattered enough to be recorded, because if one group failed, the entire community halted.
We've spent this entire deep dive looking at the mechanics of this operation.
The logistics.
Right. We started with the sheer hazmat-level danger of divine holiness, a force so intense it required specialists to wrap it in veils, imported marine leather, and vivid color-coded mourning cloths.
Then we moved to the heavy lifting.
We looked at the brilliant heavy-duty logistics of the Gershonites and the Rhodey-like Merarites using specific wagon allocations to move tons of wood and fabric across sand.
Yeah, and now the math.
And we explored the precise math, the 8,580 men in their absolute prime carrying the weight of the divine.
It's an incredible system.
It is. But as we wrap up, I want to pivot away from the logistics and put you, the listener, directly into the sandals of one of those workers.
I think it's vital to ask what the actual human experience of this was. We read it as a blueprint, but they lived it as a reality.
Right. We've talked extensively about the lethal physical danger of God's holiness and the strict protocols to prevent these men from dying on the job.
The constant threat.
But imagine the psychological toll on those 8,580 men.
I can't even imagine.
Think about living every single day, waking up, eating your meals, and camping around an object that you know could literally strike you dead if you made a single clumsy mistake.
It's terrifying.
If you trip while carrying the ark, is it over? If you walk into the wrong room a minute before the priests have finished wrapping the golden altar, do you lose your life?
The constant underlying tension of that existence is really hard for a modern mind to fathom.
How does that shape a person's understanding of fear? How does it shape their understanding of reverence?
To know that the creator of the universe is traveling with you, but that his perfection is totally incompatible with your human flaws.
Right. And perhaps most interestingly, when they did their job perfectly, when they carried that blue cloth across miles of scorching desert and lived to see the sunset, how did that shape their understanding of grace?
They were forced to live daily in the profound tension between terrifying lethal power and the immense grace of being permitted to carry it.
Which is such a powerful thought.
It strips away the casual way we often approach the sacred and replaces it with a deep, trembling awe.
It takes that clean, binary idea of how religious rules work and throws us right into the muddy, complex, and beautiful reality of what it actually means to interact with the divine.
It's not just ancient history.
No, it's not just about a list of ancient tasks. It's about carrying the weight of your specific responsibilities with reverence and care.
Absolutely.
Thank you for taking this journey with us into the desert logistics of Numbers chapter 4. God blesses all the listeners as you go out and carry whatever burdens and responsibilities are assigned to you this week. See you next time.